I'm Phill Klein. Welcome back to First Principles. And today I have the honor and pleasure of speaking with a man who I believe really learned his strength in his weakness. And that is something that is unique to our faith. He's a man who's known to the world as being one of great strength. He has portrayed that person, Hercules, in movies. He additionally is a writer. He has co-authored with his wife 3 books. He has 3 children, and he is a Christian in Hollywood and an actor and a director and somebody who is very involved in speaking the truth to a culture that does not want to hear truth. And so I'm greatly appreciative of Kevin Sorbo joining me today. Kevin, hello.
I am a Christian in Hollywood, but I live in Florida now. So
is that the reason? Because you're a Christian? I mean,
no.
Signs you're no
We've been looking to get out of California for years. I mean, since I had a 7-year run on Hercules, 5 years on Andromeda. And then after that, I've shot over 60 movies, and probably 90% of those are in Texas or further east. Alabama, Florida, Georgia. And I go, why? I told my wife, I go, why? You got family in Florida. I got family in Florida. There's no state tax. It's more of a red state than California will ever be. But I said, let's get out of here. So we finally made the move about 2.5 years ago.
Well, now you were raised Christian, right? In a Lutheran home in Minnesota?
I was in a little town of Minnesota called Mound, Minnesota. It's about 25 miles west of Minneapolis, and a little town about 7,000 people, but a close-knit town, not only religiously, but athletically. I mean, boy, and I'd say about 5,000 of the 7,000 would show up for our football games,
Wow,
So
yeah, that's great. That's
it was like Friday Night Lights where I grew up as well.
And then, so you stayed in the faith, and how did you get involved in movie making?
That goes back a long time too. I mean, I was 11 years old. We went to the Guthrie Theater. For people that know Broadway, that people in that world, they know the Guthrie. A lot of people started in Minneapolis before moving to New York. A lot of plays will start in Minneapolis before moving there, and the Guthrie Theater is very famous. So we were 5th grade field trip to the Guthrie. It was The Merchant of Venice. It was Shakespeare. Oh. I don't know what the heck they were saying because it was Shakespeare, but I was mesmerized by what was going on stage. And on the way home, I told my mom, I said, I'm going to be an actor. And she said, that's nice, dear.
Yeah, right.
That's sort of where it started, and I had a double major in college with marketing and advertising, but took a minor in drama because I always knew I wanted to be an actor.
I teach trial advocacy here at Liberty Law School. From my experience as a prosecutor and so forth in the courtroom. And I've had students come up to me and say, look, it's real hard to tell these stories of others because I'm not a good actor. I would tell them, no, what you're really doing is identifying the truth of why the story matters and how it impacts that life and conveying it. In other words, do you agree that good acting is really understanding the truth of a story and why it matters?
Oh, sure. I mean, I look at, for me, the script is the most important thing. I think it's the most difficult thing. I mean, I wrote 1 episode of Hercules. I'll never do it again. It's too much work. But if you get a good writer and something that's amazing in there with an amazing message that resonates with me as an actor, I mean, I'll read 20 pages of a script. If it holds my interest, I read the rest. If it doesn't, I just move on. And I've been very fortunate through the years. I've picked some stupid movies to be into. I'll admit that. I mean, I've shot 64 movies to date, and there's probably a dozen I wish I didn't do. But you don't go into those movies thinking they're going to suck. They just turn out that way. But I like movies. I think another reason I want to be an actor. When I was a kid, my mom and I would watch a lot of old reruns of old movies from Spencer Tracy and Jimmy Stewart and Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn and all that. And I love that. I always found the storytelling back then better than it is today. Yeah. And I wanted to do movies that touched people, that made people laugh, made them cry, make them think, make them relate to somebody on stage. And I think a lot of the movies I've been doing lately have done that. And I certainly get that from fans that stop me because I travel a lot, hotel lobbies, airports. People used to stop because of Hercules or Andromeda. I get stopped most of the time now. Hey, we want more movies like What If, God's Not Dead, Let There Be Light. Right. Please make more movies like that. And I do. In fact, 1 just released. I got 2 more done in the can, and I got 4 more lined up to film this year.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah. Well, a lot of times it seems like the flash bang kind of somewhat hinders the dialogue. And some of the greatest movies that I see are that great dialogue that reach into a moral dilemma and force you to think about right and wrong, truth, who's good, who's bad, that type of thing. And so I wonder, it's fascinating to see a culture of Hollywood that is it appears from the outside steeped in a moral relativism, which really kind of undermines the purpose of storytelling to begin with. So,
Well,
yeah,
go ahead.
what are your thoughts then?
No, I love movies that have a lot of true stories to them. My latest one I directed is called Miracle in East Texas. True story set in 1930. I directed it. I starred in it along with Lou Gossett Jr., who's amazing. We had John Ratzenberger. We had Tyler Mane. The younger generation knows him. He's Sabretooth in the X-Men movies, but he's also a WWF guy.
Thank you for explaining. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he's a big 6'9" wrestler guy. But it's a true story set in 1930 during the heart of the Depression, and the largest oil find in the world happens at that time.
Wow.
And it's I like stories that have that redemption in there. We all run into roadblocks in our life. We're all going to have pitfalls. We're going to crash into. How do you react to that? People want to blame God, family, friends, the world. The reality is you got to look in the mirror and go, you know what? It happened. What am I going to do? And it's about finding that strength, your own true strength, to fight back and just take it and say, this is life. This is what God never promised us, a perfect world. Here we go. What are we going to do about it? And you got to look at these things to make things positive, because too many people quit in life. They look at failure. They just give up. Failure is a good thing. I mean, I learned early in life. I used to caddy at this private country club, very wealthy people. I didn't have any money. My dad was a school teacher. I'm the fourth of 5 kids, And, but I asked them, how did you become successful? Every one of these guys said, oh, Kevin, I failed. And then I failed again. And then I failed again. But they didn't let those failures stop them. They used it as a positive instead of a negative. Too many people just give up. And what do we have in our country now? Bigger and bigger government saying, we'll take care of you from
that's right. Grave. Put all your hope here.
Your life is just perfectly low level.
It's fascinating too, that in this age of so-called modern tolerance, we have this cancel culture, which not only misdefines the value of a human being, as your value is based on what you've done for our group lately, which is not what it's all about, but eliminates any measure of grace for failure.
Yeah.
A failure, boom, you're canceled.
Yeah. Well, we live in a culture now. I like to know who these cancel culture people are, really, these trolls out there, because they took me down on Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
I lost my close to 600,000 followers. I would have had a lot more, but the last 3 years, they've been shadow banning me. The most they would let people see anything that I posted was 5,000 to 10,000 people.
Now,
50,000 to 100,000.
Explain shadow banning for
they have the power to say, okay, you can post, but maybe we're only going to let 5% of your followers see this. So they can control what is out there right now. And why little wusses like Zuckerberg has more power over the First Amendment than our Constitution, our government does. It blows my mind. And so they took me down because I would say, hey, here's what these doctors are saying about mask wearing. Or, hey, look at this interesting article about pro-life. But that's against what they believe that to be dangerous speech. That's dangerous speech. We have to, whatever the great Oz Fauci says, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, right? We got to pay attention. His word is God. His word is golden. And, we're seeing more and more how the hypocrisy and the lies out there are controlling us. And fear is an amazing weapon, and governments at every level are using fear to control you.
Yeah, absolutely. They have been. One of the things that our group has looked at is, and we're engaged in litigation as it relates to Mark Zuckerberg giving more money than the federal government spent on the 2020 election to local election offices in swing states to tilt the scales for Biden. It's something that never should have happened, and it can't happen again. But I remember I was in an interview and they played a clip of Zuckerberg, and I hope Americans recognize this. Basically, what he was saying in shorthand was, we can't trust Americans enough to find the truth themselves. So we've got to decide what they hear. And this type of corporate oligarchy, this elitism that has invaded our country and masks itself as democracy and promoting freedom is just a lie. And it's the direction of every totalitarian regime that has ever assumed power. You're right. Fear, and fear translates in giving up freedom. And then they use that authority to further restrict freedom. What is it like for you in Hollywood? Is there a chill that do you receive the message you're not supposed to mention Jesus Christ or express your faith if you're going to be in this business?
It's out there. I think, but it's spoken kind of quietly behind closed doors, but people are aware of it and they know of it. I know when I did a movie Soul Surfer with Dennis Quaid, the life of Bethany Hamilton, the 13-year-old girl who lost her arm to a tiger shark attack while she was surfing off the North Shore of Kauai. And they were worried and very concerned about saying Jesus Christ too many times in the movie. I mean, if you look at the movie Dennis Quaid's character is reading the Bible to his daughter in the bed, played by Anna Sophia Robb. They blurt out the Holy Bible. They take the time to blur out the words. And I even asked him, I said, hey, so because I'm a bit of a smartass, and I said, so let me get this right. If I say Jesus Christ as it's supposed to mean, as for love and hope and redemption and faith and just, a positive, joyous way of living life, that's wrong. But if I say it as a swear word, you guys are okay with that, right? And I go, yeah, we're fine with that. That's okay.
Yeah,
it's just weird. We live, and you mentioned earlier, that now anybody can say anything about anybody they don't like. That if you're somebody that's well known, or a Kavanaugh going in to become a Supreme Court justice, and say, hey, 40 years ago you did this, like those people that are being the trolls lead such perfect lives. So now we're guilty. We're all guilty now before proven innocent, when it used to be the other way around. It's crazy what we're doing to people right now.
Yeah. And
people are doing it left and right to people. I want those people out there that are going after the likes of you and me and Kavanaugh and say, okay, you need to write a book, because obviously your life is absolutely perfect. You've led a Jesus Christ mortal kind of life on this planet. Please write a book so we can be as amazingly perfect as you are. That would be very helpful to people, big time bozo losers like myself.
It's stunning to me, and their approach just eliminates the room for grace in our society.
Oh yeah,
it just completely eliminates it. And do you find as a Christian that one of the challenges we have in the faith is most people believe they know what Christianity is, but they don't?
I've got a really good documentary that just came out. That's the perfect cure for that. Okay.
Really?
Do you know John Lennox?
No.
John Lennox is an apologist. He's a retired math professor from Oxford University. He has spent decades debating Dawkins and Hitchens and Singer, guys like that. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is semi-autobiographical, but we spent 3 weeks in Oxford, England, 2 weeks in Israel. And I'm on camera with him. I narrate it as well. It's called Against the Tide. So people go againstthetide.movie, streaming, DVD, whatever you want. It's out there right now. And I call it Apologetics for Dummies Like Me. And it's a great book. I mean, it's a great way to look at how to defend your faith in a world that I think the subtitle is Proving God in a World of Science. And because all they do is say, especially people, they love their little titles, well, science. And I go, well, explain that to me. What does that mean that it's science? But they don't explain it. You're a racist. How am I a racist? Well, you're a racist because, you're a Christian. Oh, okay. Then they walk away. They never have, it's all these talking heads from these bimbo media people that just have, I don't know why people think that we need to be so far left. When has it ever been proven that socialism and Marxism and communism has been successful? Right. I keep telling my liberal friends, nobody's taking boats from Key West to Cuba. Have you noticed that? There's a reason for that. It's just weird. We got to put up these battles like this. It's the
I think part of it is, you touched on it, in that people would choose safety over freedom. Yeah. Because freedom's vulnerable. It makes you self-accountable. It can be frightening at times. Yeah. And this push, I remember President Biden gave an address as it relates to COVID. And he said, I need you. He was talking to me like I was a fourth grader, first of all, telling me that my mask, it's important to be over my nose and my mouth as I'm talking with my wife. But then he ends with this. So I can do the most important thing I can do for your life. And that is keep you safe. And I thought, you're not doing a darn thing to keep me safe. And if I believe that's government's role, put me in a padded room and make me drink this green puree that my daughter creates out of the vegetables out in the yard. Sure. That keeps me safe and healthy. No, your purpose is to protect my freedom.
Yeah.
Protect my freedom.
And what did Ronald Reagan say? We're one generation away from losing our freedom at any given time. And here we are. we're well on our way going down that road right now, and he's not wrong. And another great Reagan quote, of course I'm paraphrasing, he said, these are the words to fear the most, is when they say, hi, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. And he's not wrong. And he's the other president in the last 100 years that a lot of people hated on the left because of the truth that he and Trump both came after. I told my friends that oh, I don't like Trump, I hate him. And I go, well, okay, you can hate him for whatever reason you hate him, but how about what he's done for the country? Right. Can't you just look at that? That's the most amazing thing. Don't vote on a personality. It's just vote on actions, the things that are making your life better. And people don't want to listen to that because the media holds so much sway and power, and our education system is doing the same thing.
That's right. I was going to ask you about your children. You know, how do you teach them? How do you guide them in this cancel culture as it relates to their relationship with others? And how do you navigate this culture that all the messaging really predominantly is wrong?
Yeah, well, we homeschool. We've been doing it for 11 years. So we've been doing homeschooling way before anything else. I walked the Liberty campus here a couple of years ago. I was there with Charlie Kirk and my pastor, Pastor Rob McCoy out of California, and I got to speak there. And when I was at Liberty U, I told my son, my oldest, who's now 19, I said, dude, I wish I was 18 again. This is the college I would go to.
No, that's good. I appreciate you saying that.
It's fantastic. I mean, besides everything going, my other boy is probably going to come there. My 17-year-old. I know you guys have an engineering department there, and he's the engineer in my family.
Anything I can do, let me know.
They definitely will.
You know, I tell law students, they ask why not go to Liberty? Why go to a Liberty rather than some secular school? And I really believe it's this. You know, the passion, where your passion is, and passion means to suffer in the Latin, and suffering in the ancient Hebrew means to lift to a higher purpose. It is where we are pouring ourselves into to an external cause that the difficult becomes easy because God enables. And the passion in law and really in everything is why, not what. You know, any school can teach you what. You just go and read the law book. But why is that law there? What is its aim? What is its purpose? What's it tell us about who we are and who we should be in relationship with one another? And that's the great benefit of being at a Christian school, is because we debate, discuss, and focus on why. If you want what, go to a library, start reading. If you want to debate why, let's get busy on it.
Well, I think one of the blessings out of COVID came to the fact that a lot of people, they may be in the back of their mind, they heard the chatter and the whispers of how bad the public education is. This just put a magnifying glass on it. Yeah. And a lot of people did turn to homeschooling, or even maybe finding a private Christian school, whatever it may be. But, you know, with my kids are awesome. You know, they're great kids. They're well-mannered. They're intelligent. They're outgoing.
You've got,
pardon me?
20, 15, 16, you got three right in that range?
I got, they're 19, 17, and 15.
Okay.
Like I just spent this morning, my 15 and 17-year-old, one day a week, they go to a church with other homeschoolers. So my daughter was at hers today. So I spent 3 hours this morning to watch her do a couple speeches. And it was just so amazing to see. I mean, I didn't do stuff like that when I was in public schools. Yeah. They get to do things that we never got to do at all. And I'm blown away by the freedom that they're having, but also the learning curve is so much better. I mean, my 17-year-old, I mean, since he's just been a little kid, the stuff he does, I mean, I don't know why my computer works, but he'll take it apart and put it back together. And that's why it works, Dad. And I'm going, you know, okay.
You know, I supposedly went to an excellent public school system, and I had some opportunities there. But I remember in my senior year, they gave me the choice of English or sports broadcasting. Now, I was in the sports broadcasting class. There were probably 3 people in English. So they didn't have the discipline to stretch us.
Of course.
And to pull us along to places we didn't want to go. And that's what learning is. And you said it with failure as a great learning. Now, you attribute some miracles to God in your life, as well as to your wife, who stayed by your side during a particular difficult time where you were challenged. Why don't you tell us about that?
It was during the Hercules years. It was near the end of season 5. I was having all kinds of problems with my left shoulder and arm. I couldn't figure what was going on. These 3 fingers were numb and cold. But I was doing all my own stunts because my ego said that I could. I'm a jock myself, and I enjoyed it. I loved it. I had a great crew, great stunt guys. I came back to America to do promotional work on my first big budget movie called Cull the Conqueror, and it got to a point I felt like my arm was burning and falling off. Well, I went to see my doctor. He found a lump way up here. And he said, I'm going to do a biopsy on this thing. That kind of freaked me out.
Yeah.
Went to see my chiropractor. And in 8 years, he's never cracked my neck. I'm laying on the table. A voice says, don't let him crack your neck. And over and over again, I'm going, he's never cracked. Why is his voice warning me? He cracks my neck. I sat up and I said, why did you do that? Because he knows I don't like it. Well, within minutes, that ended up being an aneurysm that had been spitting blood clots down on my arm for months, suffocating the flow of blood into here and creating all the pain.
Wow.
That crack opened it up and forced 4 clots into my brain. I suffered 4 strokes. And it took me 3 years to fully recover from it.
Over what period of time did you suffer the strokes?
When did it happen?
Yeah. Is this a period of months or is this a?
No, a stroke. It happened within minutes of leaving.
Oh, within that you had. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And
I
you
was
had
in my car driving when it happened.
You had some vision problems.
I had lost the vision, lost the speech. I had balance issues. I spent 4 months learning how to walk and balance again. I mean, it was brutal on my ego as much as it was on me psychologically and physically and everything. But it took 3 years to fully recover. And I think a lot of it was because I was in my 30s. I was as big and strong as I was on Hercules. I was healthy and fit. And I think that helped a lot. If it happened now or in my 70s, 80s, it'd probably be a completely different story. But I did make the recovery. I wrote a book. It's called True Strength, My Journey from Hercules to Mere Mortal and How Nearly Dying Saved My Life. And it really changed my life in a lot of different ways. Because trust me, I wrestled with God. I was angry with God. I go, why me? But that's not the reality. Don't wrestle with God because you'll lose anyway. But I just.
But you win by losing, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Well, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, right?
Yeah.
So I realized that it turned my life in a whole different way that I never thought it would happen. And that book started with just book signings. Then people read the book and it motivated them. I had people with heart attack survivors, cancer, stroke, whatever it may be, alcoholics, whatever. They say, your book has made me stop feeling sorry for myself and made me fight, because it's about finding your own true strength. And I titled it that because in Hercules, I had stunt guys making me look like a big stud. Yeah. I can't throw a man 100 meters through the sky. So we all have to find our own to get through those roadblocks.
If you could, I'd have a few that I would suggest you throw, but
I
shouldn't say that. I'm sorry.
But
what did you learn about your wife during that experience? And what did you learn about God during that experience?
God and I had a lot of talks. We did, and a lot of tears were shed. My wife, we weren't married yet. We actually got married 4 months later when I was barely able to make it down the aisle, the wedding, the church. And one thing, the USC, Dr. Weiner, who's the head of the neurology department at the University of Southern California, when he heard, I said to my wife, I said, maybe we should postpone the wedding. He looked at me and says, don't postpone life. And that's always stayed with me. Yeah. Don't put your life off. Because a lot of people do. A lot of people, their kids come in the office, dad's working, mom's busy doing whatever, she's doing working, whatever. And we got to pay attention. As you know, these kids grow up fast. They're out of the house before you know it. And it taught me more patience in my life, but it also gave me a different sort of strength and motivated me to do. I started doing movies that really had more of a message to them, because that's really what I wanted to do. And I think God warned me. He tried to stop this from happening, and I didn't listen to him. But thank God he didn't. I mean, I could have been killed. I could be in a wheelchair drooling out of the left side of my mouth the rest of my life until I die. So I'm fortunate to have this. And the book has been a godsend, and it's open speaking events to me. I do pro-life speaking. I was just in Great Falls, Montana. I spoke in front of 750 people. None of them had masks on, by the way. And
watch out. Somebody might raid your home.
That's fine. Let them raid.
Okay.
And I had a book line for forever up there. The people were so amazing and so great. I just spoke up at Manassas at the pro-life event in Virginia, where the governor there said, have the baby, look at it and go, honey, should we kill it or keep it? Look at how evil the world has become. Yeah. I mean, seriously. I mean, that's right in your neighborhood over there. It's insane what we're dealing with.
It is. And it's a shame that a nation that was birthed in the promise that all persons have intrinsic value granted to them by God is the primary exporter of eliminating life that is inconvenient.
Oh my gosh. It's unbelievable what we're doing right now. And the people that fought for this country, they could see that one day that we would codify in the law the right to take a human's life.
Yeah.
I mean, they be scratching their heads right now, going,
And what Governor
what's
Northam
happened?
said was the truth. That's how he advocated as a physician, is that if you don't want the child, just let it die after it's born. And we also see them publicly advocating in many circles the ability to have post-birth abortion. In other words, decide you don't want the child till they reach a certain age.
And what is it that makes them do it in such an angry way? They're angry about it. I've seen the pro-choice people. What is a choice? Death or life? Wow, what a great choice. These are the same people that would chain themselves to a tree that's going to get cut down, or worry about the life of sea turtle egg. Well, that egg would have become a sea turtle. And I go, really? What was the egg in your stomach going to become? So it's amazing to me that we even have to have these discussions, but this is where we are right now. And it's a very angry, confused world. And the education system and the media is perpetuating it, which is incredibly sad to me. But we got to keep fighting. We have to fight with the same passion they have, just with not the same anger and the hatred and divisiveness. But we have to have that passion. We can't go, oh, what can we do? There's a lot
with grace. Truth with grace.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the truth is important in grace. I think our culture tries to separate the two and turns truth into judgment and grace into indifference to what's happening in another's life.
Well, I think the biggest killer in America is apathy more than anything else.
Yeah. Distraction and apathy. Yeah. Well, Kevin, I greatly appreciate your courage. I wanted to ask you that. Is there a time in your career where you were faced with the decision of altering the way that you give witness to who you are for success, or just continuing on who you are and witnessing to God and who God is with a greater risk?
You know what? I think more than anything, I'm doing it through the work I'm doing, the movies that I'm doing, because I get stopped by pastors and say, look, I only have 100 people in my congregation. You can reach millions. And I go, yeah, but I need your 100 people, because I do movies in that 2 to 5 million range. It sounds like a lot of money. That's nothing. Hollywood does $300 million movies. $2 to $5 million is catering on Pirates of the Caribbean. Okay. That's a catering budget.
Right.
We need the soldiers of Christ to get out there and promote these movies and fill up the theaters, because these theater owners, they don't care what they show. They want to sell popcorn and sodas. So if we get people to support these movies opening weekend, they'll continue to get out. The message will get out there. And these are the movies I'm doing. And there's 80 million homes out there that want these kind of movies. So I hope people will check out what just came out, The Girl Who Believes in Miracles. It's a wonderful family movie. I shot with Mira Sorvino and Peter Coyote. That's been out since Good Friday. Please go to Amazon. I have the #1 documentary for about 8 months now. It's called Before the Wrath. It's a documentary on the book of Revelation. Before the Wrath, like the wrath of God. It's on the book of Revelation. It's fascinating. And Against the Tide as well. Please go check that one out. And I'm directing the next Left Behind movie. We start filming in Louisiana in August.
Just recently, we had a Coca-Cola company condemn a reasonable legislative effort in Georgia. And because conservatives stood up and said, wait a minute, what are you doing? They have now backed down. And we have to understand that we have to be disciplined in our choices, because every decision we make communicates something about what we believe and who we are. And and this is an effort or an opportunity, I'm sorry, to support somebody who's out there pitching the truth in an area that doesn't want to hear it.
I don't want to hear it. I got to give a quick story about this, because I think it's so funny, because what you're talking about is, voter ID.
Yeah.
What is the big deal about this issue? Honest to God, anybody can get an ID. Look, I was speaking at an event in Scottsdale, Arizona, and the hotel gym wasn't that great. I still love to work out, even though I'm an older dude now. So they said, there's a great gym a mile down the road. So I took a nice little walk, little jog down the road, got to the gym. They freaked out. The manager comes out. Oh my gosh, we're such fans. We did photos together. I said, I'm here for just 2 days. I pay for it, just 2-day pass. They go, that'd be great. Okay. Mr. Sorbo, do you have an ID?
Yeah.
And I went, I just took pictures with all your employees. You know who I am. I got money. I didn't bring my ID. They wouldn't let me in the gym. And I said, are you kidding me? So here I am. I got to show an ID for everybody who knows who I am in a gym, but I don't need an ID to vote for the biggest office in the world. This is the most infantile argument out there. It makes zero sense to me.
And
And
it
I
doesn't
saw
promote.
people interviewing people on the streets, and I think they were in Harlem, about 30 Black people, African Americans. Sorry, I'm a Norwegian American. Let's divide us even more. I thought we're all Americans. And do you have an ID? Yes. They all have IDs. I think the Black community thinks this is just as silly as I think it is.
Well, I think most Americans do. And it's not about integrity in elections.
No.
It's authority and power. And
anyway,
and that's what's happening. So.
KevinSorbo.net. Go to KevinSorbo.net and SorboFamilyFilmStudios.com. I know it's long. We're going to change the name. SorboFamilyFilmStudios.com. Leave your information. We'll keep you up to date on everything coming out. 2 other movies coming out this year as well that are done in the can, and 4 more movies. And I'm in the Ronald Reagan movie. Dennis Quaid's playing Reagan. I'm playing his pastor. Yep. I have 1 more week to film.
Fantastic. When's that going to be released?
I bet early next year. I think
we'll be back.
Weather in Oklahoma changed the shooting a little bit, so I think they're about 2 or 3 months behind now.
Well, we'll be back in the theaters most definitely.
Yep.
To watch those. Kevin,
Awesome.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your courage and your witness, and for finding strength in humility with the presence of God.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
Well, thank you for joining us, and thanks to Kevin Sorbo, somebody who is willing to see that storytelling is about the truth and why it matters and why it's important to your life, and is willing to bring the truth to you. And I would encourage you, he touched on something that I think is significant, increasingly so in our current culture. And that is, think about what you watch, what you see, what you support, and what you do, because it all communicates. And it is vitally important that we support those who are willing to take some risk and speak the truth in this culture. Risk of being canceled, risk of being condemned, risk of not making the monies that they could otherwise make if they turned away from the truth. And so I would encourage you, you'll see the movies and the website on the screen, to take some time and support these folks, and do it in all that you do. Because we must have, if we're going to be a free country, the commitment to stand up for our freedom at all times. And part of that freedom is the freedom of expression, the freedom of those who engage in these types of activities of movie making, script writing, publishing, and so forth. So thank you for joining me. I'm Phill Klein, First Principles, and we'll see you soon.